Hey everybody, it's Chuck. I got something I want to show you on the Cybertruck, specifically for Cybertruck owners, and this could possibly just be for early VIN numbers. I'm not exactly sure. I have VIN number 1980 on this Cybertruck all-wheel drive, and look what I found today. This panel is coming loose. Now, Dirty Tesla, Chris, up in Michigan, on his road trip returning from Florida, had this panel completely come off and bend backwards while driving down the interstate. I've got a picture of it I pulled off of one of his videos right here. I'll show it to you. They're also talking about this on the Cybertruck owners forum a little bit. A couple of people have some pictures just like this with a gap starting to show. Chris Dirty Tesla, his panel was on this side that started to come off. But what I want you to know is that there's at least 3 cases of this happening, and you probably need to keep an eye on it, inspect it, and possibly even go in and double check it. But this is how this works. I'm gonna go ahead and open up the front just to kind of give you a perspective here. There is a bolt attached to this panel right in here that goes inside and goes through a little adjustment panel, and then there's a nut. I think it's an 8mm. I didn't have an 8mm wrench. It tightens with a 5/16 wrench, and the closest millimeter is 8 to that. And with a flashlight and or the right angle, you can fit a wrench down in between the glass and this panel to tighten up that nut. On the other side, over here, it's very, very similar. You can stick up a wrench down beside the glass and it fits in and you can tighten the nut. Obviously, think about the direction you're tightening it. My nut was still attached, but it was backed off about almost 1/4 of an inch, and just a couple more drives with any vibration that would have completely come off and I'd have lost the nut. And that's probably, obviously you could probably replace the nut, but if this had bent back and obviously you get a little crease or something in here, that would have been unfortunate. But what I want you to do is go in here. There is blue Loctite on this shaft. I can see it, but the nut obviously backed off. So I'm gonna go ahead and retighten this. First of all, let me show you some pictures up close with my iPhone of what this looks like looking straight down in here, so you get a little bit of a visualization where the nut is. And the nut is just about 1 inch back on this panel. It's right there. It's easy to get to once you know where it is and you understand that it's a bolt attached to the panel and then a nut that tightens it. More than likely, this is an adjustment piece. In other words, they tighten the nut just to get this panel gap just right. But obviously, if the Loctite is not in the right spot on the nut, or it just works loose, you could perhaps lose that nut and perhaps even damage your panel. So keep an eye on it. The way I'm gonna go ahead and do it is I've got some blue Loctite. For those of you that don't know about Loctite, there are 2 types. There's blue and there's red. Red is permanent. The only way you take red off is with heat to the nut. So if you ever had to get in here and take this off, there's no way to get heat in there. So I would not recommend using red unless you want it on there forever. So this is the blue type. I'll show you a picture of this too up close. In order to not make I could probably drop it very, very carefully and get it in there. But the way I'm gonna do it is with a little disposable pipette. I've got about 100 of these. I use them in my beekeeping all the time. And this fits right down in there just fine. And I'm gonna put a little bit of this blue pipe thread sealer on there before I retighten the nut. And I'm gonna get a little bit more on there than perhaps Tesla had. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this up, maybe let the camera go and I'll just talk through it while I'm doing it. Double check it. I'd really hate for anybody else to not understand how this has happened a few times, and just double checking the nut and a tiny little wrench to tighten it. Don't let it get too far to where you lose the nut, that's my point. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and shut up for a little bit and go ahead and tighten this and I'll let you watch. Okay, when I tighten mine all the way down, it makes it nice and smooth. So I did not need to leave mine loose at all in order to keep the panel gap just right. So that's nice and tight. Since this one is still tight, I'm just gonna loosen it. And let me show you how I get this Loctite in here. It's a little bit of a mess. So definitely don't do it without a towel or something on here. Obviously, you're just dripping. Okay, now that I've got it loosened, I'm just going to put the thread sealer on there. Okay, this right side of the car is definitely a little trickier than the other side, mostly just because of the access is a little bit tighter. You can definitely see it. I don't know how you would do this very well without that pipette or some sort of straw sort of tool to get it in there. You'd probably make a pretty big mess. But both of those have been loosened, blue Loctite put on them and re-tightened up all the way. And for me, both of them completely tight, had the panel gap closed, so I didn't need to leave it loose a little bit. In any case, hopefully this helped you out. If you own a Cybertruck, check it out. And if you're purchasing a Cybertruck, maybe check it out on delivery inspection just to make sure that's nice and tight. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully this is helpful. We'll see you next time.